Let's talk more about you then. You're an evolutionary psychologist and now a media psychologist.
Yes, apparently.
Yeah, maybe you'll do even more of this kind of media experience. Um, but you're an evolutionary psychologist. So what sort of creature is that?
Evolutionary psychology, in my opinion, well, I guess I'm biased, and most people are about their discipline, but I think it's a very important field of study, and I wish more people were aware of it. Um, Evolutionary psychology, excuse me, I got a bit of bronchitis here. Basically, uh, works under the presumption that evolution does not only create adaptations in terms of our bodies, in terms of organs and so on. It doesn't stop below the neck. It continues on up to the brain. And so our brains have evolved to do the same things as our bodies, to survive and to reproduce and pass on our genes to the next generation. And most people are kind of unaware of that evolution has created the brain, and the brain is the basis of behavior. Um, I think what I find a little frustrating sometimes with my colleagues in psychology is uh, if you ask most psychologists, why do organisms behave in the first place, they would kind of look at you probably a little gobsmacked, dumbfounded as
Yeah.
to what are you talking about? Of course, organisms behave, but that's a legitimate question, and we could ask the same question. Why do organisms have bodies? Uh, we could have stayed as single-celled organisms and so on, but every psychologist, in my opinion, should be able to answer that question. Why do organisms behave in the first place? And the answer provided by Darwin, who was the first evolutionary psychologist, he said, in the future, I see far more important researches, just like, the body evolves, mental faculties evolve as well. And evolution will become the new foundation for psychology. And there's a long history there. There was one problem with Darwin's theory that Darwin himself recognized, and he was a honest guy. And he mentioned that one problem with his theory is that it could not explain the behavior or the existence of uh, the social caste system in social insect species that have a sterile caste of workers. Ants, bees, termites have a group of individuals who never reproduce themselves. And he realized that was potentially fatal to his theory.
Huh.
And that would have been fatal indeed to his theory, because evolution cannot explain or could not explain how that could have, how a sterile caste could possibly evolve. And it wasn't until about 1963, 1964 that question was finally answered by William Hamilton with his theory of inclusive fitness. And he argued that there's two ways that organisms can pass along their genes. They can reproduce directly, or another way to do it is to reproduce indirectly through individuals who share your genes. By helping those individuals, you're essentially helping your genes. So, for example, if I have two children, each of them has 50% of my genes. So I've essentially replicated myself genetically with two children. But if I have a sister who has four children, and I've helped her such that those children survive and reproduce, where otherwise they wouldn't have, There's 25% of my genes in each one of those children, and that adds up to 100% as well. So I don't have to reproduce directly. I could reproduce indirectly.